Welcome to Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary podcast. This is your host, Scotty B. My next guest from Madrid is a talented speaker, maker, and cosplayer. She embodies empowerment and covers many tough subjects in her talks, including mental awareness, bullying, and body shaming. Bringing all of this to light, she has found it all very important for her mission to bring awareness through cosplay and to help the community through outreach in every shape and form. A humanitarian, very genuine and kind person here to tell you all about the power of cosplay. Please welcome GloryCosplay.
Hi, how are you, Scott? It's a pleasure and a real honor to be in this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm glad we could coordinate. I know it's you're miles and miles away, and I really appreciate being able to do this with you all the way from Spain. Um, so I guess just to get started, I'd like to talk about you and your origins with cosplay. We started seeing more of you come in 2018, but was this actually when you started cosplaying, or does it go a little further back than that?
Well, yeah, actually, this is when I started cosplaying. I've heard before about cosplay, but on a very superficial level. However, I've always liked wearing costumes for all occasions. I was waiting always for Halloween, for carnival time. So actually, it was on carnivals on 2018 when I decided I wanted to be a Wonder Woman. So I decided I wanted to build the costume. So I started looking for references and tutorials, and that's how inevitably I came across cosplay and cosplayers. And I started watching their work, and I said, this is really cool. I definitely want to do this. And then I opened my Instagram account and started crafting.
Oh, and your Wonder Woman, it's so cool. Everything that you put together and all the detail that you have in your costume. I first saw you, it was actually Liz Wonder that noticed and put you in her stories, and that I was like, wow, this is really she just does so much with this. I had to find out more, and you really do a lot to explain the purpose with cosplay, and it's just very interesting. First, just talking about how cosplay has a deeper purpose for you, and that it has helped you and it's helped others. If you wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. Definitely, cosplay has stopped being merely a hobby and has become a lifestyle. Because last year, for instance, I was struggling a lot with my weight because due to a medication, I gained 44 pounds. So the medication that I was taking is prescribed for a mental condition. So if you put together already struggling with a mental condition and a massive gain, weight gain, it was something really, really difficult and really hard to overcome because I felt disgusting. I feel ugly. I was shocked because of my new body. I felt ashamed. But then it came to a point then I decided I had to change my mindset because I couldn't believing like this all the time, hating myself for being mentally ill and being overweight. So that's when I started learning about body positive. Um, I started accepting and loving my body little by little. And of course, I shared all this journey with my community and my Instagram community mostly. And people felt really connected with that because a lot of them had the same struggles as me. A lot of girls were struggling with accepting their body, with having a healthy self-esteem. And I also discovered a lot of people wrote to me and send me messages about being dealing with a mental illness. And everybody was telling me that it was very brave of me to openly speak about it and to share my journey, to share my experiences, because people felt related. So that's when a lot of people started telling me that they saw me as an example of strength and resilience and positivity. And that's when I decided that I needed to do something something about it. When I
Mhm.
realized that I was not alone on this struggle, let's say, I realized that I could help people using my voice and my influence to help them accept themselves, just as I was learning to accept myself, I guess. And not only with weight issues, but also addressing mental health issues. So that's when I decided to take a step forward with cosplay. And I also joined a nonprofit organization where we do volunteer work, such as children hospital visits, charity events. So that's when I found out that my purpose or my mission was doing something with cosplay to help and encourage others.
And you have done so much for the community, and just how you've gotten started with public speaking, and you've been doing that for some time, encouraging others that have similar struggles. I think bringing mental illness to those discussions and promoting mental health awareness. You actually featured on if I'm saying this correctly, you can stop me if I don't. Frida ES, and
Yes.
you've talked on many panels and on many different stages. Would you like to talk about how you got started with speaking, like how that all came about? Was it more did you reach out or did they reach out to you, and what it means to be able to speak publicly on the subject?
Well, I've always been good at speaking at public because I studied PR. So it was kind of like in my DNA, working in front of the camera and speaking to people on a daily basis. But of course, it is one thing to talk about a corporate or a random subject, and another thing it's publicly speaking about your own life and fears and struggles, because you feel very vulnerable. But for example, for Frida, they contact me via Instagram, and they told me that they wanted to have a cosplayer to tell to talk about cosplay and break the myths about cosplaying. So I felt very comfortable because it was a very safe space. It's a Frida S. It's a media that is focused on women empowerment. So I felt very connected. And for the other ones, I've been sometimes contacted also, but sometimes I see an opportunity at a big event where people could use to hear something about my story and empowerment, and I reach to them. So, well, as I said, the first time I spoke on a stage about this, about cosplay, was on Madrid Comic Con, and it was very, very challenging. But I fought my fears because the desire to help other people and to make them feel related and help him was stronger. So I took the courage to tell my story publicly. And I openly say in my talks that I suffer from bipolar disorder. And it's funny because at first people is a little bit shocked because in their minds, they don't really see, they can think that a mental a mental disorder and being perfectly eloquent and articulate. So that's what I normally do. And every time it's easier to speak about mental illnesses and normalize it, mm, because it's funny because sometimes you say you have a mental disorder and people say, but you don't look like you have one. And I say, but I'm bipolar. And then people after the talk come reach to me and they say, I can't believe you are bipolar. You don't look like one. And I ask, well, what a bipolar person looks like exactly. So someone depressed or with anxiety, I like to fight against the misconception, about the misinformation, about the prejudices. I think that's the word.
Hmm.
Yeah, so because they make a lot of damage. Media has made a lot of damage, making us look like we are screaming and tied up and ready to go to a psychiatric hospital, and that is what I fight against. So that is what makes me feel empowered to talk on stages.
And yes, when you do speak, you do come across with so much confidence, and there's just such a great flow to what you're saying and how you say it. And I know a little bit of Spanish. My sister's a Spanish teacher, and my brother-in-law
Great.
he's from Mexico City. So I've learned a little bit as I've gone. I can hear it. So I did watch your YouTube video on your talk at Heroes of Comic Con Madrid, and
Yeah.
that was a talk entitled "The Power of Cosplay," for which you spoke on mental health, and it's a really great video to see how you go through everything and how you draw your audience in and everything that you're explaining. It's just a very well put together talk. It's not just my opinion. I think it really is very
Thank
well
you so
put
much.
together. Would you like to tell us more about the power of cosplay?
Yeah, of course. Actually, that's the name of my talk, and I want to do a series of talks. Also, I went to Valencia and presented the same talk, and it's it's about being empowered and encouraged through cosplay. For example, for me, cosplaying Wonder Woman has made me change my whole mindset. I I now see myself as a strong woman, a warrior, and I can I could say that Wonder Woman and cosplaying her has actually transformed my life, because she is someone who is driven by compassion, by goodness, um, by being strong, and I think I took those values and made them mine. So now Wonder Woman has helped me tackle my issues with a different focus. So I started making on Instagram a movement asking people to share a picture wearing their favorite the cosplay that made them feel strong, confident, okay, using the hashtag the power of cosplay, el poder del cosplay in Spanish. And I had a massive response. I think that about 150 to 200 people responded and explaining, uploaded their picture and said, I feel confident wearing this cosplay because it makes me feel better, it makes me feel good. So I realized that actually cosplay has has the power to to empower you, to make you change your whole perspective and your life. And that's when I realized that cosplay has a very strong psychological power. So that's when I decided I'm gonna make this my title. I'm gonna make this my like my brand or my mantra, the power of cosplay. So that's how the idea of the talk came. And when I saw that in Madrid Comic Con, there they had a lot of space for cosplayers to to suggest talks and panels, I decided I wanted to take the power of cosplay and all the things that I've been saying before to my Instagram community about positivity, mental health, put it together in a conference.
And it came together so well. Were there some questions that came up from your panel that were more frequent than others, or were people asking a lot of questions for you um, at your panel, or was it more? Do you think um, was it more of a presentation? Like, did you want to make it more interactive, or did you want to have it be more for the audience? I guess if that makes sense the way that I'm asking.
Yeah, well, uh, being my first talk, my first conference, I think I made it kind of a more presentation, more like a storytelling. It
Hmm.
was telling my story, telling the story about my sister. She's mentally disabled, so I made it more like a presentation. But I saw that people were reacting because I saw their faces, I saw their expressions, and at the end of the talk, they came to me and asked me some questions. Mm, uh, Mostly it was women that that came talking about the body positive movement and the self-acceptance and how they were struggling to accept their bodies, and also some people suffering from a mental condition such as autism, Asperger, and told me that they felt really good and they felt that they were not alone struggling with this. But my goal is to make my the next the next conference is more interactive and to interact more with people.
Hmm. And you mentioned anti-bullying and self-acceptance and like topics like body shaming. Could you talk a little bit more about how you promote positivity and self-acceptance and anti-bullying? So if you are approached and that comes up, how do you address those subjects with the people that you talk to?
Well, mostly it's through my own personal experience. I'm a very active person on Instagram, and it's a way to share and be connected with the people. So for example, i I share images, pictures of me wearing tight clothes or gym clothes, regardless being a little overweight, and forcing myself to feel confident, to feel okay. I share my meals. I encourage people to take care of their body. I give them positive tips like dressing, finding their style, doing exercise, just watching yourself in the mirror and giving yourself a hug and thinking about how much your body does for you. And I think that's the way I mostly share with my community my body positive tips. And I, of course, also I go out to a lot of events here in Spain. I go to many conventions, so I know a lot of people, and we talk a lot face to face, and there's always time for connecting with people in real life, and they tell me their fears, their struggles, and I try to give them some advice to make them feel positive.
And it's
And
really,
I think that's okay.
yeah, it's just so great that you've been there for so many people and that they do look to you for that connection and for that encouragement for themselves. You've also worked to encourage others, going on volunteer visits to children's hospitals. You've assisted with charity events and fundraising as a member of nonprofit organization. Um, would you tell us a little bit about how this has changed you and helped you grow, and some of the work that you've done for charities and for hospitals?
Yeah, of course. It was one of the first things that I made when cosplaying because I signed up for a nonprofit, but at the beginning it was mostly because I wanted to connect with other cosplayers. But then when I actually started doing volunteering work, I realized I could make other people happy, and it's I don't know how to say. I wouldn't say it's addictive, but it makes you feel so good, so you can stop helping people. My last works have been, well, right now actually with the here in Spain we're having a terrible coronavirus crisis,
Mhm.
so we can't go out. Um, one of the things we're doing as a nonprofit organization is record greeting videos or birthday videos to children who are staying home and in need. And actually, we're recording videos dressed up as superheroes or princesses, telling people or telling children ideas to do while at home. Why should they stay at home? And that is what we're doing right now. Like we can go outside, but we're doing it virtually. And before the pandemic, the last event I attended was at Madrid biggest hospital Christmas party, where we had a show where we sang and we danced for the kids at the play courtroom, and we also made some visit rooms. And before that, I attended a benefic market um, held by a women association. And I think that volunteering has completely changed the way I approach my life because the experiences that have resonated deeper inside me are very tough because
Mhm.
it's where we have met children that were about to leave this world. So usually children with very grave illnesses such as cancer or terminal illnesses, and their last wish is to meet their favorite superheroes or princesses. And it's really hard and emotionally challenging to be faced with such an unjust situation. Uh, and you cannot say anything because your work it's to make them happy, to bring them a last happiness and a last smile to their faces. So I think it makes you realize the meaning of life actually. You realize that life can end when you least expect it, and death doesn't care whether someone is good or is young. So having this in your mind makes you live with passion and really enjoy every second of it, and you try to make it count, to make a difference. That's what I think.
Yes, and I think that's one of the most important things. It's what you can do, what you can give, versus what you can get, and what you can
Yeah.
take. I'm a big proponent of that as well. I always explain it as 51-49, that you need to take about 51%, but then you give 49%, just so that there's a little bit more coming to you, so that you have energy to keep doing it. If you give
Yeah,
too
that's
much, then you burn yourself out, and that's the end of it. You can't
that's
keep
a
going
very
with that
good
thing.
philosophy.
I did steal it from someone, but it's something that Gary Vaynerchuk says a lot. But I do believe that that is very true, and certainly you've done so much, and you have a great balance with what you do. Um, Another topic that comes up and that you've already mentioned is body positivity. It's something that I've talked about in my past, working with people in fitness and in modeling in South Korea. And if you're not familiar, if the audience isn't familiar, I brought it up a little bit here and there, but South Korea is more or less the plastic surgery capital of the world. Women are encouraged from a very young age that they are not enough and that they need to alter themselves or they need to be very thin and they have to look a very certain way and they can't ever be different. They have to kind of conform to this image. Um, and the people that I worked with, the person that I worked with, was very against that. She was a fitness instructor. She was an IFBB champion. So she was very muscled. She's she stayed in shape for many years to compete. And you've mentioned that you've been a swimmer and that it made your back very muscled, at which typically having a lot of muscle development on your back isn't necessarily feminine in some people's
Yeah.
opinions. I would happen to disagree, but um, I know that can be what some people would think. Over time, though, you've come to be very accepting and um, good to yourself, and to see yourself as yourself. But that this was potentially a very big issue to overcome. Do you see this come up a lot in the cosplay community? And what would you say to somebody who has a negative body image of themselves?
Yeah, unfortunately, body shaming, it's a very common issue, especially with women. And yes, as you said, I suffered my teenage years for having a kind of masculine body because the swimming made my back broader and my shoulders broader and my hips and my thighs narrow. So I didn't have a very feminine frame. I wasn't curvaceous, so I was very obsessed because I saw all the girls my age developing curves, and I felt flat. I was very narrow. I was very angular. So having a non-feminine body has always been a trauma, even as an adult. I continue to hate my body sometimes. But then after my massive weight gain, I suddenly acquired curves, but I also got cellulite, stretch mark. I got fat rolls and a belly, and I felt disgusting. And I saw myself, and I wish that I had back my super skinny and angular body. So I even called myself a pig, a cow, disgusting. And then I realized I would never come at peace with my own body. Whether I was when I was very thin, I hated myself for being thin and angular and muscly. And when I was a bit overweight, I hated my body for being full of fat and cellulite. So I realized that I had to accept what I had, whether I was skinny, whether I was overweight, or whether I was whatever. And a thought that helped me a lot to accept my body was to thank my body, because thanks to my body, it's possible for me to walk, to eat, to do things, to to feel, to love. So that's when I started thanking and accepting my body, no matter what. And yes, there is a lot of body shaming in the cosplay community because people think that you have to have a certain type of body in able to perform a character, especially we women are expected to have tiny waist and big breast and big butts, and if you don't have that, you are a fail, or you are called fat, or you are not allowed to do that. And that is not right, because cosplay is for all. It doesn't matter what type of body you have, because firstly you are playing a fictional character. So it doesn't matter what type of race or body you have. So what I would say, and what I tell people dealing with accepting themselves, it's you must find your value, focus on your strength, focusing on what you like about you, whether that what you don't like about you, and thank their bodies for letting do all the things that they can do. And I think that when you learn to be grateful with your body, you start really accepting and loving yourself.
And that, I mean, and it takes some time. If you don't have
Yes,
a
it
if you
takes.
don't have a positive image of yourself, building that connection within yourself, it might seem a little bit, and this is just from my own experience, it might seem a little bit fake to you, like you're kind of lying to yourself to start. Like it's not like you want to tell yourself that none of these things that you think are true, but it does take a little bit of time to sink in. So it's so great that you do encourage people to accept themselves for themselves, because you know what, we get one body and um, we
Yes,
taking care of it is very important, but also taking care of it from the sense that you don't sit there and judge it so
of
much. I mean, it
course.
gets you where you need to go. Um, age happens, like we get older, things change. We can't always, go and train our brains out, and um, our metabolisms change. So it's really just accepting some of the natural things that happen too.
Yes,
Uh,
that's the thing, accepting the nature of your body. And actually, I've realized that when you start taking care of your body, when you start eating healthy, when you start doing exercise, you happen to accept your body more, little by little.
I can definitely agree. Yes, and it's a process, but you start to feel better.
Yes,
And yeah, it really is. It's almost like feeding yourself the positive energy. I mean, I've heard it a lot in the fitness industry that food is food is food, but when you do make changes, you do notice that you feel different. Even something as simple as getting off of caffeine. I've noticed a huge difference recently. So it can be simple things.
yes,
Uh,
and also it's very important, sorry, because I
go ahead,
said
sir.
something that has really, really actually helped me change my mindset is I started following on Instagram a lot of celebrities and models that promoted body positive. I mean, women with real bodies. I stopped following influencers. I think must a lot of influencers do a lot of damage because they promote a perfect body and a distorted self-image that girls are always trying to achieve, and it's not natural. So I tell people in my conferences, unfollow toxic people and follow people that is real.
Yes, you have to get as much of the negativity out of your crosshairs as you can, for sure.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today.
I'm really happy to do so.
I appreciate it so much. I do have a few final questions for you. Two are usually a little off center, and then my one question that I always ask all of my guests. So my first question for you here at the end is, how did you make the Wonder Woman helmet that you have?
Yeah,
Because
the
it's
Spartan.
it's so cool. I had to ask.
Yeah, well, it's completely made of EVA foam. I um, I got the pattern. I got the patterns from a page that I like a lot. It's called Punished Props. I had a pattern, printed it, traced it into EVA foam, have a heat shape. I sculpted the front eagle with foam clay, and then I put on some plastic dip and then golden spray paint. And that's it, only EVA foam.
Oh, wow, because I mean, it looks kind of heavy actually when you see it on
Yeah,
stage.
I know. Actually, I think I have it lying around here. Wait a minute.
Mhm. Oh, there it is.
So here it is. It looks heavy, but you can see it's quite flexible and it's very
Yeah,
lightweight.
it's and I love the detail. I love
Thank you.
the fringe at the top. It's just it's just so much creativity and effort that goes into things like that, and that is something that I do like to admit that everyone who comes on the show and all the experiences and insights that they share, that it really is the talent and the skill that is so common to people that are on the show, and that's really what it's all about. Like how you look and being a certain way or a certain shape or anything like that. Like, but the real truth is that people in cosplay, like, you have so much talent and so
Thank
much
you.
skill goes into what you do, Gloria. It's just so cool to see. It's cool to share, and I'm always grateful to bring that to light. My second question for you, getting back to the goofy part, if I'm visiting Madrid, what's one thing that I would not want to miss while I'm there?
Well, I think there's a lot of things because Madrid it's a very big and vibrant city, but I think definitely going to one of their museums, to Museo del Prado, going to El Retiro Park. It's like a mini Central Park in Madrid. And just walking the city, going through Gran Via streets. You could also go to a medieval town. It's called in Toledo. It's in 1 hour. And I think that just wandering around the city, that would definitely be it.
All right, someday. My sister's been twice. She studied there for her master's, and I think she wanted to stay, but I can't say that I blame her.
Everybody falls in love with Madrid, actually.
So my last question for you as we wrap up is, what do you want your impact on the world to be?
uh, I think I would like to one day look back and look that I contribute, changing a little bit the mindset of people about mental health and mental illness, because this is this is a very this is an educational work. So I would like to help people struggling with mental condition to accept themselves and living their full potential, like to know that there is nothing that, not because you have a mental illness you are doomed. No, we can do so many things. And also, like I said, to educate society on mental health and mental illnesses and making the world a place for opportunities and very inclusive for people with mental illnesses. I think that would be.
Hmm. Where can we find you and how can we support you?
Well, I'm mostly on my social media. I'm on Instagram, on Vero, and I have both a Patreon page. You can find me on patreon.com GloryCosplay, and also through coffee donations. Actually, most of my next project is being funded from coffee donations. It's the same name, Glory Cosplay.
Oh, that's so great. And yes, make sure to support Gloria Cosplay online. She does so much for the community, and all of the things that she puts together are so amazing. So we thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing all of these wonderful thoughts and insights about the power of cosplay. So we come to the end of the show. This is Scotty B talking to GloryCosplay. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Bye bye.